The Age of Imperialism is the time period when the great powers of Europe, which we learned after the Napoleonic War, were Great Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, and France. What these great powers are doing, Europe is changing. I know it's very difficult. By about 1870, your map of Europe has changed. You no longer have Prussia. Prussia has, under the leadership of Bismarck, has unified Germany. Italy, in northern Italy and the island under Sardinia's leadership, and Sardinia unites under the leadership of Cavour, unites northern Italy, and then Giuseppe Garibaldi uh, unites Sicily and the Boot and combines that with Cavour's northern Italy to create a unified Italy. You have the Europe changing. Also in the 1800s, Europe not only is going through geographic changes, they are also going through this age of imperialism, and they're also going through big economic lifestyle changes with the Industrial Revolution. And this is going to lead to imperialism. Imperialism, remember if you're practicing your Quizlet and from what we learned last class, is when one country dominates another country either politically, socially, or economically, or in all three ways. And we are looking at when other countries dominate other parts of the world. So if we look at this map, we are going to see that Great Britain is really one of our leading imperialist countries. So my question that we're trying to answer is, why does that happen? And how does this affect the world today? So let's look at some of the causes of the imperialism. So one, we talked about the Industrial Revolution. Remember, factories need raw materials. And remember, raw materials are not only natural resources, but also materials to create something. For example, if I'm doing a textile mill, I'm going to need cotton to make the cloth, but I'm also going to need coal to power the machines. So we have this need for raw materials. And where these colonies are going out is they are looking around the world. So these countries, European countries, and eventually the United States and Japan began to look elsewhere. Also, these factories are turning out huge amounts of goods. Well, guess what? I need somebody to buy these goods. And that is what is occurring with the market. So the Industrial Revolution is a cause of imperialism. Another cause of imperialism is something you wouldn't think about: nationalism, pride in one's nation. How does pride in one's nation bring about imperialism? Well, colonies meant power. When Italy and Germany especially, they are a strong military. They have a strong army. Well, they're looking at Great Britain and they're seeing the vastness of the British Empire, and they want to show that even though they're a new country, they want to be the greatest. The British Empire takes pride in being a colonial empire. So colonies, this nationalism. Plus, if I'm Britain and I'm wonderful, I need to spread my culture to other countries. So we have the development of nationalism. Also, another cause of imperialism, very similar to the age of exploration, even though we'll talk about that later, but remember the Europeans couldn't explore until they developed some of the navigation tools. Well, they couldn't go out and conquer without technological superiority. So the Industrial Revolution, where technology is improving. Remember, we're getting the development of the steam engine and the steamboat, and we're getting trains and phones. Well, what happens is this technology makes it easier to go out and conquer and control these people. We now have an area, think about it. So you have, for example, Britain controlling India. Well, now with technology, when there's an uprising in Britain, I know about it immediately thanks to the telegraph. The Europeans they've developed machine guns, stronger, and not just machine guns, but stronger weapons, steamboats, railroads, telegraphs, telephones. These enhance and help Europeans go out and conquer and even get into areas where they could not before. Another cause of imperialism is social Darwinism. Remember, you studied Darwinism in Darwin and the theory of evolution in biology class. That idea of natural selection, the strongest survive. Well, with Darwinism, social Darwinism, and this duty to civilize. Europeans believe that they were the highest level. They are the fittest people. They are Darwin's. This is as high as you can go. So as a result, we needed to bring up those lower groups of human beings, and that was their duty, the white man's burden. So those non-Europeans had to be civilized. Well, first of all, we have to define civilized. Civilized, first of all, remember, is Christians. Your imperialists are going to start with your missionaries, bringing Christianity. We have to convert the natives. Even though you have religions like Hinduism and Buddhism that have been here long before Christianity, they are saying these are not civilized people. Even when you get Japan, which will eventually industrialize and make economic progress, they're still not going to view them as civilized, as equal to. And as our duty as Europeans, as these highly advanced human beings, to go out and civilize these natives. And that is also going to be a cause of imperialism. Another cause of imperialism is going to be the lack of unity among these conquered people. Europeans are going to use those disadvantages that these people have to their advantage. They're going to exploit religious differences. One of the results that you see, India, the colony of India, has tension between Muslims and Hindus. Well, the British, for example, use that and to keep those two groups from uniting and being able to overturn them. That's not the only place where this happened. They will use Sunnis and Shiites against each other. When you talk about the modern genocide that happened in Rwanda, the Hutsis and the Tutsis, well, you can trace that back to imperialism and grouping these people. So they're going to exploit language differences. They're going to exploit religious differences and ethnic differences in these areas. So the results, the other thing that happens is, especially Europeans have some problems they had to overcome to get in this. This is not a cause, this is just something. So we listed our causes: industrial revolution, nationalism, technological superiority, social Darwinism, and that desire to civilize, and lack of unity. Well, to be able to do that, they also had to solve two big problems. One was disease, especially malaria. And they discover a drug by the name of called quinine that's going to help them so that when they go into these areas, they're not going to be felled by disease. The second thing is, when you look at the Europeans, Africa on the edges was easy to explore, but to get into the center of Africa, up those rivers, you're going to need a steamboat because you can't punch through on a sailboat. So that helped them. So that brings us to the effects. Well, we know that Europeans come to dominate the world. But I'm thinking, if you look at the world today, what I would like to do in class is take a couple minutes and see if we can list some of the effects of imperialism has on our world today. How did it affect the economy of the world? How did it affect the languages spoken in the world? How did it affect government? Did areas unify? Did they not unify? So I want you guys to be thinking about that so that when we come back together, we can have that discussion.